Hi, I'm Dawn, and this is where Shabby meets bling. I'm going to be using some thrifted PVC and some clearance Christmas ornaments to create some unique and spectacular Halloween decor.
This is Juno Ween. I would like to thank our host, Annie, from Crafting with Annie Jones. You're going to find the link to her channel and this amazingly spooky playlist in my description box below. So here's my PVC, and these are scraps. I have used PVC in so many different projects like this and this. I will leave the links to these two project videos in my description box. But for this project, I need a certain size pieces of my PVC. So I am marking out the actual lengths I need just with a marker. And I am dividing this out into as many pieces as I can, roughly 1.25 inches each. How many pieces I get out of this will determine how tall the item I'm making is going to be. And what I'm going to make is a pair of candlesticks, a pair of, keep in mind, this is Halloween, right? Okay, so I am making a pair of spine. These are going to be a stylized spine candlestick, each of these. Once they're measured out, I will take them out to the chop saw. So here we are, and voila! We have little pieces, little equivalent pieces. And I need my PVC little slices to be solid. So we're gonna fill each and every one of these little cavities with some spray foam. This is high density spray foam. It's the stuff I use all the time, and it's fabulous because it is going to fill the majority of the cavity. You could fill these with a lot of different things, but this is gonna dry the hardest, it's gonna dry the fastest, and it's gonna take the least amount of product. It will also act as a natural adhesive because this stuff will stick right to the insides. It's not coming out once it goes in. Once I have them all filled, I will set them aside and let them dry. It didn't take very long, and they're dry. It's almost like they were in an oven and they were little muffins and they raised, because that's what this stuff does. It expands. You can see the bottoms are still a little sticky and they need to air dry. By removing the wax paper, this gives the bottoms the ability to expand if they're still able to. That's why I'm separating them and flipping them upside down. Now that both sides are dry, I can cut off the little muffin tops. Yeah, the muffin tops. This shouldn't take but a moment, and then I'm going to fill in any remaining surface area, any little divots left by the styrofoam, with some lightweight spackling, because these need to be solid, and you'll see why in a little bit. These are little individual vertebrae. This is, like I said, it's going to be a spine, so I'm making little individual vertebrae that are all going to be connected into candlesticks. So remember, it's Halloween. It's Halloween. Don't forget that. All trimmed up and ready for that spackling. You can see there's not much to fill, so this won't take long either, but I'm making sure that I do both sides. I'll start with one side, let it dry, and then we'll flip it over and we'll do the other side. And once that side's dry, we can go on to the next step. Now it's time for the drill and the clamps. I've got a couple clamps working here, and I'm going to mark 2 little dots, one on either side of each of my little discs, and then I'm going to drill holes in them because we need to add something into these holes to make them look like little vertebrae, like these little itty bitty things here sticking out. I'm not a doctor. Can't tell you what they are because I chose to not look them up. I just didn't. So any chiropractors out there or orthopedic people, you trained professionals, if you know what those itty bitty teeny tiny things are, you just let me know in the comment section. You may have noticed that as I'm drilling, I'm changing out my drill bits. Now, it's not like I've chosen, it's the wrong drill bit. Oh, and that's the wrong drill bit. No, what I'm doing is I'm gradually increasing the size of my drill bit as I go, because A, this is a round item, and even clamped, it can roll on me. B, if you start out with a big drill bit, my hands aren't as strong as what I used to be. I'm not a young kid anymore, so I have to gradually work up to the larger bit, because the big ones will spin on you and crank your wrist. So as always, safety first. What I'm going to be putting into these holes are these little things. These are wire connectors. They're used to secure electrical connections between wires. You know, electricians use them, that type of thing. So if you have two wires and you put one of these things on, you screw it together, boom, you have a connection. So that's what I've decided to use, because I think the shape of them really resembles that little nubbins that I don't know the name of on the side of the spine. So that's what I've chosen to do. And you can see it does have a little bit of that exact same shape. Once I have all my holes drilled and I know my wire connectors fit, I am going to glue them all into place. And I am just using hot glue for this. I'm also using hot glue to fill in the hollow side of my wire connectors so they're solid as well. When I'm done, I picture these sitting like in a movie set of Sherlock Holmes, you know, the one with Robert Downey Jr., of course, just sitting in the background looking ever so medical. But ours will be more stylized. They're gonna resemble a spine. They're gonna resemble vertebrae. They're not gonna be like, oh my goodness, you got a vertebrae there and that's not right. No, this is just gonna be something fun and decorative for Halloween. Once I get all the wire connector cavities filled with hot glue, I will wait for them to dry, to harden. Then, just like before with the foam, I'm coming back with that lightweight spackling to fill in any leftover areas, because the hot glue, as you know, it'll like condense, it'll shrink up as it hardens and dries and sink down into that cavity. I want it to be a smooth, flat surface. I'm also using the spackling to go around where the connector goes into my PVC. Now, you don't have to do either of these steps. I choose to do so because I want a clean look, as if the nubbins and the PVC are all one. And now, finally, look at the point. I am using a Waverly chalk paint, and this is plaster. So I will give everything a good coat, all of my little spinal pieces, all my little vertebrae, and we'll see how I like it and how it's shaping up and if I need a second coat. My paint is dry and I was looking them over and I am not satisfied. I'm not satisfied. I don't like that hard edge at the top and the bottom of each of the vertebrae. So I'm taking my sander, my palm sander, and I am going to round those edges. I'm just curving them so they look a little worn and they look a little more real and not so darn rigid. Every little vertebrae is getting a manicure, a little pedicure, a spinacure, and I also don't like the extreme shape of the little wire connectors, so I'm gonna sand those down a little bit too. I mean, I've got my palm sander out. I might as well give everything a good going over, and I'm even gonna rough up the texture on the front of my PVC that you actually see, so it's a little more rough, and this is going to leave little shreds because I'm using a very coarse sandpaper. I will have to paint again, but that's okay. At least I'm happy with the way they look now. Now it's time to assemble. The way this is going to go is they're going to be stacked one on top of the other, and near the back of each little vertebrae, this wire, very sturdy wire, is going to go down through each one. And in between each vertebrae is going to be a little wood ball. These little wood balls came from wood pile, and they will get painted as well. But you can kind of see that's the way it's going to go. I'll do one candlestick with 5 vertebrae and one with 4. And they will be mounted to the rear of this wood pile disc. I will drill a tiny hole into my woodpile wood round, so that way the wire can be inserted into that hole and get glued and be nice and sturdy. This will get inserted into the top of each candlestick. This is what florists use to insert into floral arrangements to hold candles. I will cut away anything that is too big and not necessary, because as is, this will not fit into the tops of my vertebrae. So I will do some cutting and trimming it down and then insert it and glue it into place. Once they are assembled, everything will get another coat of paint, and then they will get a coat of the podge. I feel my candlesticks need some embellishments, so I am going to add some roses, and I want different size roses. I want roses that are in full bloom, but then again, I want some pretty little rose buds as well. I thought for a moment about using the little roses from the Dollar Tree, but they just don't look as real as these foam roses. I got a package of 25 at Goodwill for $3.99, and these are really pretty. I am going to disassemble some of them to create the different size roses that I'm after. I love using foam roses for many different things. I've even converted them to lilies of the valley. I will add the link to this video in my description box so you can check out how I did that. If you do decide to disassemble the foam roses, be very gentle and pull slowly, or you're gonna rip them. I mean, it's just that simple. They are delicate. I will be keeping all the extra components, you know I will, because I keep everything, not harder. And once they're disassembled, then we're gonna paint them, because I want them to be a beautiful Halloween orange, a dusty Halloween orange. I am going to be using pumpkin chalk paint from Hello Hobby. Hello Hobby. I love this color. I love it even more than the Waverly pumpkin. I think it is just a deep and dark and gorgeous. It is amazing to me that when you paint foam, it can take on different looks. I am painting these roses, these foam roses, this orange chalk paint, and it is looking like leather. If you could see these in real life, you would see that they look like they're made of leather. I've even painted a smaller, more delicate foam rose with chalk paint, and it turned out looking like porcelain. I will leave the link for that video so you can see how that turned out. So if you have foam roses or other foam items, really think about giving them a coat of paint or two, because you're gonna get a different, unique look from them. And bonus, they look more expensive. I picked up these Christmas ornaments, yes, Christmas ornaments, a couple years ago on deep clearance. They were 90% off. So I got them for like $1.20. So what a deal, right? And I am going to make them into something to coordinate with another project that I made. This project. I will leave the link in the description box if you haven't seen this one, but I want those ornaments to coordinate with this bell noisemaker. I'm going to reproduce, not identical, but I'm going to reproduce a moon and the bats on some of my ornaments. Just using a pencil, I am sketching out what I want to eventually be permanent on my ornaments, and I'm starting with the moon. And I apologize for the really shoddy camera work here. I do have a kitty, his name is Friday, in the upper left-hand corner there, and he was given my stand that holds my camera kitties, and it was slowly knocking my stand sideways, so I do apologize, and the video does get better. Just bear with me for just a moment. Thank you for your patience. I'm using pencil so that it's not permanent right now because I'm making mistakes. Of course I am. It is a round surface, it's hard to draw on, and I am not the best at drawing. I am doing the best I can to get a version of the moon that's a little happier, a little more jolly, shall we say, onto my ornament. And I erase as I go and redraw in and do what I need to get it to the point where I can go ahead and make it permanent. Now I am going to repeat the same process on two of my ornaments, but draw bats on them, those same little cute bats that were on my Noisemaker. I'm once again using pencil and my eraser to get the body and the wings the way I want them, then adding the little little ears, those cute little ears, his eyes, and his fangs. The bat is a much more simple form than the little moon. So sketching these out was a little bit easier. Once I get my bats ready, then we will take all the ornaments on to the next step. Always the next step. I'll bet you guys that you thought I was gonna paint. I am not gonna paint. I am using a marker. This is not a Sharpie. It is a Milwaukee marker. The markers that construction workers use. Ooh, construction workers. Well, I happened to come across a few of them, my husband's, and I thought I would grab them and use them for this project, because these things have a really, really nice sharp point on them, and yet they're wide and easy to hang on to. All I am doing is I am retracing all the lines I drew with pencil with this marker. Every line. I will be adding a second color, which will be a Sharpie, and it will be orange. So it's going to be orange and black, and that is it. Those two marker colors is all I'm using on this little moon. I continue to trace over all my lines until I get to the point where I need to make some decisions. And the decisions come with what to erase, what not to erase, what lines to darken and make thicker, and so on. So when I get to this point, I stop. I come back with my eraser and I clean up all the lines that are outside the areas that I use the marker on. Then I grab my marker again and fill in all the areas that I want solid black, like the lips and the centers of the eyes. I do not make the whites of his eyes orange like the original image on my little bell. I leave them white and I make the iris orange instead. I do not color in his teeth. I leave them the color of the ornament. Once I finish with all the black detail, I'm coming back with a Waverly chalk paint in the color of silver linings to make his little craters all over his little head. I had really lightly sketched out where I wanted the craters prior to this, and if I made those little circles too dark, I erased them to some degree because I did not want the pencil showing through my, yes, I don't want them showing through the gray when I light this up. Yes, because they're all going to be lit internally. Yes, they are. So I finish all my little craters on my moon face, and then I finish all the little craters on the moons that have the bats flying across them as well. Once my paint has dried, I come back with the Sharpies, the orange Sharpies, and I fill in any and all areas that I want to be orange. And I have to tell you, the black Milwaukee markers worked so much better on this glass ornament than the Sharpies did. I was really kind of shocked and amazed. And if Milwaukee makes other colors other than black and red, I'll go get some. So as you can see here, I am following around the little teeth because, as I said, they will remain the color of the ornament. And I'm just filling in his little mouth with one of my orange Sharpies. Once I finish this, I will finish his eyes, and then we will move on to our little bat. Bats. Yeah, there's two of them. Where drawing my little bat was much easier, filling him in not so much because his little facial features were so incredibly tiny. But I did it. I made it work. I made it happen. And I just need to maybe find a better orange set of markers if I'm going to do this again, or I paint.
My Christmas ornaments have now left Christmas and have made it to Halloween, and my PVC is now a pair of spectacular candlesticks ready for Halloween decor.
What started as clearance Christmas ornaments are now Halloween ornaments. Here they are, not lit, just hanging about. You can see that I took the little tops and I aged them. I put them in my aging bucket, and now they are not that bright, shiny silver anymore. They are more appropriate to a reproduction, a 1920s Halloween ornament. Let's light them up. As I always say it with me. If you can light it up, you should what? You should light it up. Darn straight you should. And I just dropped a teeny tiny little battery operated light into each one of these ornaments. And now their craters glow just like the real moon. How cool is that? Let's take a look at our candlesticks. Here they are in their simplistic glory, just with a candle. And these are real candles. Those really pretty swirly black candles are real. You could always add battery operated tapers in there if you prefer, but I really like the look of the real candles. Each individual little piece of the spine, all those little vertebrae, will swing from side to side, so you can make them always look different. You can see how they're kind of wiggly wobbly, kind of like the spine is in motion. How fun is that? I've turned them around so you can see the back side of them, and you can see those little wood balls that I added that act as dividers and connectors to each of the vertebrae. And now let the embellishments begin. To make them look like they may have been in a laboratory, I've added a couple hurricane globes over top. Very simple, but it gives you more of that medical feel, like everything is pristine and under glass, almost apothecary-like. Now we're going a little more romantic, and I've added a few of those foam roses that now look like leather. Let's see what it looks like with all of them. Here are all the roses underneath those hurricanes. They are just sitting in there. They are not permanently attached to anything, so you can change the look of these little spine candlesticks at any time you want. Now, depending on how you style these, you could get many looks. I am not into scary, but if you style them the right way, embellish them the right way, you could do a scary, frightening look as well for these candlesticks. I prefer pretty or fun. This has been Juno Ween. Thanks again to our talented host, Annie. You're going to find the links to her channel and this playlist in my description box below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like. Share it with your family and your friends and anyone that likes thrifting, repurposing, DIYs, Halloween, and Halloween decor. You can follow me on Instagram and make sure to check out my shop on Etsy. Leave me a comment. I love hearing from you. Make sure you ring the bell for notifications of all my upcoming videos. And subscribe. It's a great way to support my channel, and you know you wanna. But for now, this is Dawn with Shabby Meets Bling. Thank you so much for watching, and I really look forward to seeing you next time.